Hello and welcome to Laser Enhanced Destruction Storm, as is the full title of the game, apparently. Very spiffy title, but I prefer Let's Storm, I think. Let's Storm is a racing game. You might notice certain similarities with an old classic called Burning Rubber, but outside of the fact that you can jump on vehicles in order to destroy them, there is not an awful lot of similarities outside that mechanic. You are driving on floating tracks and they are quite narrow and quite devious and requires a lot of memorization in order to get past the different tracks. Things like the triple jump here. If you go through the interface quickly, on the top left you have the distance that measures how far you are into the stage. The middle thing, there's a word energy. When you pick up letters, the E letters and the petrol can things, you gain a letter in the energy word, and once you spelled it fully you get a full refuel. And that of course is the top right interface. When it comes back, when you get into the next stage, is your fuel gauge thing, and if that runs out, game over. So it acts as your timer as well. Onto stage 2, switch into the motorcycle. Just to show it off, it is slightly faster than the car, but it's also more flimsy, which means that you get knocked about constantly, which can be a bit frustrating. Most of the challenge from this game comes from memorization, knowing the tracks, knowing where the pickups are, and I would say that the challenge is fair. It can feel a bit hard, it can feel a bit harsh, but it gives you enough extras if you know where they're located, and sometimes they are at some very nasty positions, but if you find a handful of pickups per stage, it is not impossible, assuming of course that you drive through the stage relatively flawlessly. It is definitely not impossible to clear the individual stages. Personally, I have gotten to the last stage at one point. It's not happening in this video, but yeah. From a graphical point of view, it's not one of the worst looking Commodore 64 games ever. Nothing super spectacular. I mean, it serves its purpose and it's doing that quite well. The sound, the introduction sound of course is absolutely epic. In-game sound is not too bad, or in-game music I should say. But more importantly, the gameplay is very smooth. It plays very well, and once you get used to the different tracks and the different obstacles and all that, you will find that you progress relatively quickly. Overall, it's a game I fully enjoyed, and it wasn't a purchase I was unhappy about having made. I've never been aware of the arcade, so it was a bit of a surprise for me, a sleeper hit, if you want. But speaking of being happy about the purchase, thankfully I was on very friendly terms with my local computer store, and they gave the luxury of try before you buy, which not every computer store would do. I don't know if it was different for other countries, but for Denmark it wasn't a common policy. And they allowed me to try the Amiga version, which I was about to buy, and as a bonus I'm going to show it off. Well, bonus or penalty, nah, which I will call it bonus. The introduction music between the two versions is different from one another. That's perfectly fine, that wasn't entirely uncommon, but truth be told, I would have loved to hear a upbeat version of the Commodore 64 music, but I don't know whether the Amiga version came out before the Commodore 64 version, so whatever the case, welcome to Dead Storm on the Amiga. One of my greatest gaming disappointments ever, at least from that time. And you'll get to see why. Let's get into the game. Minor detail, the Commodore 64 computer wants to be called Max. This one wants to be called Mac. Oh well, whatever. Inconsistency is perfectly fine. The gameplay. Same gameplay, updated graphics, as you would expect from a 16-bit version. Runs slightly faster, as you would expect from a 16-bit version. And then it goes sideways. Or, in the case of this game, it doesn't scroll sideways, it jumps sideways. It's game breaking, absolutely ridiculously game breaking. The game plays perfectly fine. It's very smooth to play, except for sideways, and it's just, I mean, I'm absolutely speechless that anyone ever could look at this game and say, you know what, that's perfectly fine, let's just release it to the paying public. They will accept this incredibly poor scrolling. I'm a type that will go on about scrolling left, right and center, because when you're playing an action-orientated game, whether it's a shooty or drivey or whatever you call it game, responsiveness of controls and scrolling are two super important aspects. Graphics are nice, sounds are nice, but they're just icing on the cake. The cake consists of a smooth gameplay experience with responsive controls, and that involves smooth scrolling. I have no words for the Amiga version of Dead Storm. Everything is perfectly fine. I absolutely love the music track on stage 1. It's just my kind of music, upbeat. And then you play the game. This bit on the Commodore 64 version is the same on the Amiga version, 3 canyons that you have to drive through. But unless you slow down to a crawl and start forcing your joystick sideways very early on, there's no chance you will ever get past those 3 canyons without smacking into the canyon wall. Speedsters. such an incredibly poorly made side scroll. The rest of the game is perfectly fine. Games like these, or like this even, is one of the reasons why the Amiga took such a bad rap so many times. Anyway, that's all for me. Thanks for watching, take care, and see you next time. Bye bye.